Mysteries want you to fear what's hiding in the dark, but folk horror wants you to fear the place itself. A quiet village, an ancient forest, or a tradition that's been followed for centuries. That can become far more unsettling than any monster. Today, we'll be looking at 10 incredible folk horror movies where the community, the landscape, or old traditions become the real nightmare. We're ranking these by how completely the location, community, and traditions become part of the threat. Let's dive in. Number 10, Men 2022. Now and then, the creepiest place you'll visit isn't the one filled with monsters. It's the one where everything looks perfectly normal until you realize nothing about it actually is. That's the unnerving feeling waiting outside Men. After escaping to a quiet English village for some peace and solitude, Harper expects the countryside to offer a fresh start after an awful family tragedy. Instead, every walk through the village seems to pull her deeper into something she can't explain. The locals are polite enough, the streets are peaceful, and the scenery couldn't be more dazzling. Yet every encounter leaves behind the same uncomfortable feeling that she doesn't belong there. Before long, nearly every man she meets shares the same face, turning casual chats into encounters that feel increasingly surreal. The village itself starts behaving less like a place people simply live and more like somewhere shaped by old beliefs that never really disappeared. Ancient folklore quietly lingers beneath the surface, making the forest, abandoned tunnels, and weathered churches feel connected by secrets that non-locals were never meant to understand. Rather than chasing Harper with obvious horror scares, the village slowly closes in around her, replacing certainty with doubt until even familiar places become creepy. Men very much remind us that sometimes the most frightening communities aren't openly hostile. They're simply too comfortable with mysteries they've learned to live alongside. Number 9, Hagazussa, A Heathen's Curse, 2017. Fear has a way of growing when people stop questioning the stories they've inherited. That's the quiet nightmare at the heart of Hagazussa, A Heathen's Curse. High in the Austrian Alps, Alburn lives almost completely cut off from the rest of the world, carrying the burden of old accusations that have followed her family for years. The mountains surrounding her are breathtaking, but they also create that feeling that there's nowhere else to go and no one willing to help. The nearby villagers view her through generations of superstition, treating rumors as undeniable truth and isolation as proof that something must be wrong. In a place where folklore shapes everyday life, fear spreads long before anyone sees evidence that the old legends are real. Every strange event only strengthens beliefs that have existed for centuries, making it almost impossible to separate reality from the stories people keep telling themselves. The loneliness becomes just as unsettling as anything supernatural because Alburn is trapped inside a world that already decided who she is from the start. That combination of ancient traditions, harsh wilderness, and relentless suspicion creates an atmosphere that feels too impossible for her to escape. If you love horror rankings that dig into cults, folklore, and the stories hiding underneath familiar places, hit subscribe. We're pushing toward our first 1,000 subscribers, and every new one genuinely helps us keep making videos like this one. Number 8, Starve Acre 2023. A single dead oak tree on a Yorkshire farm holds more menace than any haunted house could manage. Starve Acre follows a grieving couple who moved to the countryside after losing their son, only to discover the land has its own hungry history, tied to old folklore about a figure called Jack Gray and a tree that supposedly grants dark favors in exchange for something precious. What makes this one work is how grief gets weaponized. Sorrow makes people vulnerable to belief, willing to dig up roots, disturb bones, and entertain rituals they'd normally dismiss as nonsense. The countryside doesn't scream at you here, it waits patient as topsoil, letting obsession do the work that maybe a jump scare could never do. A hair born from unearthed remains becomes an unsettling symbol of nature reclaiming something that was never meant to return. And the farmhouse itself starts to feel like it's keeping score of every debt owed to the land beneath it. There's a quiet horror in watching people convince themselves that tradition and superstition might actually offer answers grief can't provide. By the final act, the movie asks whether some prices once paid to the earth can ever really be undone, or whether the land simply collects what it's owed eventually. Number 7, A Field in England, 2013. Some of the scariest places aren't somewhere you just stumble into. It's somewhere that refuses to let you leave. A Field in England turns a single stretch of countryside into a nightmare where reality slowly slips away. Set during the English Civil War, a small group of men escapes the battlefield hoping they've left danger behind, only to find themselves wandering across an isolated field that feels detached from the rest of the world. The longer they remain there, the less the landscape behaves like ordinary land. Every direction seems to lead them back to the same place, while strange mushrooms, hidden treasures, and whispers of occult practices make the field feel governed by rules no outsider understands. Instead of offering shelter, nature becomes a silent prison, trapping the men inside an environment where time, memory, and reason begin to lose their meaning. The horror isn't driven by constant violence, but by the growing sense that the land itself has swallowed them into something ancient and unknowable. Every patch of grass and every distant hill seems to hide secrets that existed long before anyone walked across them. The result is a haunting reminder that some landscapes can become part of history, quietly reshaping everyone who dares to cross them. Number 6, Impetigore, 2019. Now, nothing makes a town feel more disturbing than realizing everyone has been waiting for your arrival for reasons unimaginable. That's the chilling idea behind Impetigore. Maya travels to a remote Indonesian village hoping to uncover answers about her family's past after discovering she may have inherited an old house and a fortune there. When you first see it, the village seems really quiet, watchful, and immediately suspicious. The locals exchange uneasy glances, conversations suddenly stop when she appears, and every answer seems designed to reveal just enough while hiding something much darker underneath. Before long, Maya discovers that the village has been living under a terrible curse for generations, and her unexpected return is tied directly to its future. Ancient customs and deeply rooted beliefs have shaped every part of life there, making it clear that escaping the village isn't as simple as turning around and walking away. Every resident already understands what needs to be done because they've grown up with it. Maya is the only person trying to piece together history everyone else already accepts as truth. That isolating feeling of being the outsider who knows nothing transforms every casual interaction into a quiet source of tension waiting to be exploited. Before we hit our last 5, I've got a quick question for you. Which horror setting would creep you out more? A remote village where everyone knows your name, or an endless forest that seems determined to keep you lost? Let me know in the comments. Number 5, The Witch, 2015. Few things are more frightening than watching familiar beliefs slowly become impossible to trust. The Witch begins with a Puritan family banished from their colonial settlement, forcing them to build a new life beside a vast forest that feels untouched by the outside world. At first, their greatest challenge seems to be just survival, but isolation has a way of feeding fear until every strange sound, failed harvest, and unexplained disappearances start carrying a darker meaning. Living on the edge of the wilderness means the family has no neighbors to rely on and no community to reassure them when things begin falling apart. Instead, old religious beliefs and whispered stories about witches lurking beyond the trees gradually shape how they see one another. Suspicion spreads through the household just as quickly as any supernatural force could. Suspicion spreads through the household just as quickly as any supernatural force forest could, turning love into mistrust and certainly into panic. The forest always lingers in the background, silent and mysterious, as though it's patiently waiting for the family to destroy itself before revealing what truly lies within. Number 4, Kill List 2011. The most terrifying secrets are often the ones hiding in plain sight, and Kill List begins like a gritty crime thriller following 2 hitmen who take on what seems like another routine assignment. But with every new target, the job pulls them closer to something far stranger than either of them expected. Ordinary locations slowly give way to strange symbols, unsettling encounters, and cryptic warnings that hint at a hidden world operating just beneath everyday life. The deeper they go, the clearer it becomes that they're no longer in control of where this journey ends. Instead of relying on haunted houses or cursed forests, the movie creates dread through the realization that an ancient ritual has been unfolding around the characters all along. Every clue, from client meetings that end in ritualistic gratitude to victims who seem almost relieved to be found, suggests some people have quietly preserved old traditions for years, waiting patiently for the right moment to complete a plan that outsiders could never understand. The frightening part isn't simply that these rituals exist, it's how ordinary everything appears until the truth finally surfaces. By the time the full picture comes into focus, escape is no longer an option because every decision has already pushed the characters exactly where they were meant to be. Number 3, The Ritual 2017. Forests are supposed to be places people explore, but in The Ritual, they become places that seem determined to keep anyone who enters. After the death of a close friend, 4 men reunite for a hiking trip through the remote forests of Sweden, hoping the journey will help them move forward. Instead, one wrong turn leads them into a wilderness where every path feels older than memory itself. Strange carvings appear on ancient trees, abandoned cabins offer little comfort, and disturbing signs suggest they've wandered into land shaped by Norse-inspired mythology. The deeper they travel, the more the forest begins to feel alive, not because every tree is moving, but because everything around them quietly points toward an unseen presence that has ruled these woods for generations. Nature stops feeling like a backdrop and starts acting like something with its own purpose, steadily separating the group from any sense of safety or direction. Even before the true danger reveals itself, the landscape has already become the enemy, wearing down their confidence until panic replaces reason. Every attempt to leave only draws them further into territory they were never meant to enter. Number 2, Apostle 2018. The most dangerous communities aren't always the ones that threaten outsiders immediately. Most times, they're the ones that welcome you just long enough to make leaving impossible. Apostle takes the idea to an isolated island where Thomas travels to rescue his kidnapped sister from a mysterious religious settlement. At first glance, the community appears disciplined and united, with everyone working together under shared beliefs that promise protection and purpose. But beneath that orderly surface lies a world built on sacrifice, unquestioned loyalty to a dying god, and rituals that have been repeated for years without anyone daring to challenge them. Every resident accepts these traditions as necessary, even when they demand terrible, gruesome choices, creating the distressing feeling that morality has been completely reshaped by isolation. The island itself reinforces those beliefs, cutting the settlement off from the outside world until its customs becomes the only reality that people have ever known. Thomas quickly realizes he's surrounded by individuals who aren't acting out of cruelty for its own sake. They're protecting a way of life they've convinced themselves must continue, no matter the cost. That unwavering devotion makes every conversation feel tense because reason has no place in a community where faith outweighs compassion. Apostle shows how frightening absolute belief can become when an entire society agrees that tradition matters more than humanity. Number 1, Midsommar 2019. Sunlight, flower crowns, and cheerful singing turn out to be far more terrifying than any dark forest could. Midsommar takes our top spot by setting its entire runtime in broad daylight, following a grieving woman who travels to Sweden with her unavailable boyfriend for a midsummer festival hosted by a pagan community. Everything about Haga looks idyllic at first, all the white linen and communal meals and genuine seeming warmth, which makes the rituals feel more disorienting once they arrive. This is smiling villager horror taken to its extreme. Nobody here raises a knife in the shadows. They perform sacrifice as celebration, treating death and cruelty as natural parts of a cycle where everyone present is expected to accept without question. What makes it so disturbing is the absence of concealment. There's no lurking, no hiding, just open acceptance of practices that would normally horrify outsiders, presented with enthusiasm of a wedding toast. Grief becomes the entry point for manipulation, as the community offers belonging and validation to someone desperate enough to accept both, regardless of the price attached. The flowers and faux costumes frame something horrifying, proving that daylight can hide atrocity just as effectively as darkness ever managed. Sometimes better, because no one expects horror to arrive wearing something so cheerful. The best folk horror doesn't just make you afraid of what's hiding in the dark. It makes you question the places that seem the safest, the traditions people refuse to let go of, and the quiet communities where everyone smiles just a little too much. An ancient forest, an isolated village, or beliefs that have survived for centuries. These movies remind us that the most unsettling nightmares are often woven into everyday life. Which folk horror community would you trust the least? Let us know in the comments.